Hey guys, it's Leah Mason Virgin, your success coach and author at burstingwithblessings.com. And today is Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, everyone. We are so excited. I'm super excited. I know you guys should be excited because I have Rob Kowalski with me. He is the founder of CityFam. He has 2 incredible books. He also has YouTube videos that are just amazing. And I just feel so privileged. If you guys don't know, I met him through Frank, which I had Frank on 2 weeks ago now. I can't even believe it's already been 2 weeks. I just can't wrap my head around that. But let us know if you are listening live or hashtag replay. I'm just excited. We're just going to chat and let him share about his journey, because really, guys, it's all about our journey with God and about how we can come together and support one another and meet each other's needs wherever we are. And I think he has amazing ideas on how to do that. I think he has an amazing way of supporting people to choose a path in a life that is God inspired and God protected. And that can be hard in this broken, sinful world. Ladies, it can be very hard. But I am really excited that Rob is here with us to share his heart, to share the mandate that God has put it on his heart. And I love the fact that we're gonna jump into all the things, but I really love the fact that his book is called Go. And I made sure to listen to the Gospel Matthew today while I was on my treadmill, just to hear Jesus say, go. And so, Rob, please share with us about you and what you do. And then we'll start talking about your journey, about how you started CityFam. And then we'll dive into the books. This is like, you're multi-passionate. Like, you have so many things. I'm like, how much time can I get with him? I promised him 30 minutes, ladies. And you guys know Leah can talk a little much. So while he starts introducing himself, I'm going to be sharing it into my group. If you guys aren't with me in my group, it's Blessed Christian Life Coaching by Leah. And then, of course, on my page, and unfortunately, Instagram, get with it. Like, I want to be able to stream into Instagram. Can't do that. That's soon. Anyway. All right, Rob, take it away.
So where would you like me to start? You want me to just share my testimony?
Definitely share. Like, how did you start CityFam first and foremost? Because that is amazing to me. Okay. And when you shared your story with me, that resonated with me on so many levels, in just being a very, very confused on where to go, where to find, people to hang out with in a positive way as a teenager. And when I was in college, right up before I met my husband, which we won't say where I met my husband, but there wasn't anything that I found very positive, and you have created something really amazing.
Thank you. So I used to be the most sought after male stripper in Baltimore. I was in the phone book. I worked for every entertainment agency. It wasn't that long ago. It was 20 years ago when I quit. But I was a stripper, and I was a nightclub promoter. I was running the nightlife in Baltimore, and I was, not a good person, to be honest. I didn't even think of myself as a good person. But I had a radical encounter with Jesus when I was 27 years old. I got baptized in the Holy Spirit. It was a road to Damascus experience. I wasn't looking for God. He just decided to call me one day. And love that. Yeah, I did. So I did this 180. It was basically like I got red pilled, like in the Matrix, and it was like, God's real. I got to make some hard decisions. So I quit stripping. I quit promoting. I broke up with my girlfriend at the time. I cut off all my friends. They were all partiers, and I became lonely actually pretty quickly. Because all of a sudden I went from having this very active social life where I was in the bars and clubs 4 or 5 nights a week, and now all of a sudden I didn't know what to do or who to do it with. So I was like, I started going to church on Sunday, and I liked the things that I was learning about God, but I didn't really. Number one, I didn't really relate to religious people. Honestly, I thought they were nice, but I was like, they're not like me, and and then they weren't doing a whole lot, like, so what makes my story unique is when I got saved, God told me, basically, he said, wait, I have a girl for you. If you wait, I'll bring her to you, basically. So that him telling me that stopped me from dating out of loneliness, because I surely would have done that. Because I got lonely very quickly. All of a sudden, I didn't have any friends to hang out with, and I was like, okay, well, where are the cool Christians? Basically, that's what I started looking around. I went up to McLean Bible Church. They had something called Frontline. I went to Christian coffee houses. I went to Ebenezer's in D.C., the coffee house by Mark Batterson's church. Literally looking everywhere for a group of people. I'm like, there's got to be people out there like me. Could not find them. So then I was like, all right. I basically said, I'm just going to hunker down and I'm going to wait for God to give me this wife. I'm going to stay out of trouble. If I don't sin long enough, surely he'll give her to me. So then I just basically went to a lot of movies over the course of the next few years. And every 3 months or so, I'd get so pent up with energy that I would go back to the bars, because I wanted to be around people. I wanted to have some fun. And then I would either drink too much, or there'd be a girl there, and we would be flirting, and then I would get scared that I was going to mess up sexually, and I'd stay in for another 3 months. And this was my cycle for 6 years. I was literally abstinent for 6 years straight. I went from being the biggest man whore in the city to being abstinent for 6 years. Like, that's how radical my change was. And it wasn't easy. It was probably the most depressing time of my life. I felt like an alien in the world. Like, I was all alone, and eventually I backslid. I went back to the bars, and I wanted to be around people again. I was like, I'm going to give myself some freedom, and I'm just going to see what. I had the intention of making a difference from the inside. I was actually leading a Bible study in a bar. That's kind of how it started, and it was actually really effective. And then it was so edgy though, and I didn't have good accountability. That's when I slept with a girl after 6 years. I broke my streak, and then everything kind of went out the window slowly. I ended up making a good-sized mess, just of my life, really, over the next few years. I living in a backslidden state. And then I rededicated in 2011. And for the next year, I got on leadership at my church, was very serious about my walk with God, but I just was staying in every night, renting Redbox movies again. Like, can't even have a girl over my house. I didn't trust myself or them. And so I literally was just alone all the time, and I was depressed, and I was like, this can't be, what Jesus is talking about when he says the abundant life, because my life didn't feel abundant at all. So I said, I was complaining to somebody about it, and they said, well, you were a promoter. Why don't you start organizing events that give you something to do that won't cause you to mess up? So it's kind of like a light bulb went off, and I started organizing social events. And I had a few friends from church that I always have to say they loved Jesus, but they were normal, they were going through the exact same things that I was, where they were just bored and lonely on the weekend. So I started organizing social events. They started coming. I started inviting my old friends I used to party with, because I couldn't get them to come to church. They would not come to church with me, but they would come to a social event a lot of times. And if my friends from church were there, then they would build relationships with them, and then they would end up in church. And a lot of times they'd get saved, and they'd even get on leadership at church. And I was like, I've been trying to get you all here for 10 years. This is what I was trying to do. So then I realized, okay, this is something. It's given me a social life. It's given me an intentional social life. And it's also given me a ministry, because now I'm seeing my friends get saved. So, the group was growing, and it was fun, because now it was more people that I could relate to, because they were coming out of that lifestyle too. And we started doing service events, a lot of volunteer events, because I was volunteering through the church, but I thought, well, I still wanted to do something that wasn't faith affiliated, because I think that's a barrier to entry for somebody that's not a Christian yet. So we started organizing volunteer events, and more people started getting, their lives started changing. And so eventually we gave it a name, and it became CityFam. And that's now like, 6 years ago on Valentine's Day was our first event. And now we have some chapters popping up in other parts of the country, and really feel like it's, there's a huge void, for like, specifically when I look at like the older singles in the church, a lot of times they're the forgotten group. It's like the church doesn't know what to do with us, so they kind of tell you, okay, well, don't have sex, don't sin, but good luck. See you next Sunday. I mean, that's really how it is. So if you read the scriptures, the singles should be the most effective group. Paul says it's better for a person to be single than be married, because you can devote all your time to the Lord. You don't have to worry about somebody else's happiness. So if that's the case, and the Bible is true, then we should be the people that are the most effective in the congregation, and yet the churches have no idea what to do with us. So CityFam provides a really cool framework for people to go out, have a social life, but also make it very purposeful and reach the lost. We are literally the ambulance. If the church is the hospital for the broken, CityFam is the ambulance. We go get the people and bring them back. We don't wait for them to crawl through the emergency room. Like that's what most churches do. They wait for you to come to them. And most people don't go to church until they hit rock bottom, if they ever go at all. And we're like, well, that's a terrible strategy. Let's not wait for that. So that's really what CityFam is, at least to me. Even though we're not faith affiliated, we do see a lot of people meet Jesus through it, and which is exciting.
And that's what I love. That's what drew me. Like when you and I first talked last week. It was only last week?
I know. I think I've known you forever.
And here's the funny part, you guys. Actually, Rob is in my city. I had no idea when we got on a call. I had no idea he was literally in the same state and probably 25-minute drive from me. But so now, post the big C, I'm hoping that Rob and I will meet in actual person, shake hands and hug, because this is amazing. Like to me, when you started talking about that, I was like, this is what we need. Like, cause I know churches like have a heart for like, well, how do we get into, right? I know, Nicole, right? You can't see the comments. Sorry, Rob. Nicole says, truth, I don't fit in as an older single. And, and that is something that like, to me, I can totally see how I've had blinders on to like, what does that even mean to others in the church, and how are we as the hands and feet of Jesus bringing everyone together? And for sure, the majority of churches aren't very welcoming places and kind of a hot mess, and we love them, but for me, I have a lot of actual church hurt. I have a lot of baggage. So it's actually amazing to me that God would even have called me into this space. And now I literally write Bible studies and daily devotionals. It makes no sense to me. God should have been like, not you.
Right.
Not you. But that's what I love about him. Like he called you, he qualified you, and he's given you this amazing purpose. And so what does CityFam, what kind of events does that even look like?
Sure. So we like to push the envelope. We're not faith affiliated, but I do hear churches say, oh, we'll do anything but sin to reach the lost. And I'm like, you won't do anything. We'll do anything. So meaning like I do concerts at the Horseshoe Casino. We had Drew Hill last year. Or actually it was the year before last, pre-COVID. But we do we do edgy events. So a lot of our events are in bars. I like going to a bar. I was sober for 6.5 years. I didn't drink a drop of alcohol because I was really trying to get my purity under, make sure that I didn't mess up. And I still like going to a bar even when I was sober, because there were things like there was music, there was live music, there was food, there was like people to hang out with, there were girls. Maybe I meet one. I was like, I don't know. But it was a hell of a lot better than staying home. What I don't like is going to a bar if I'm by myself and 99% of the people are going this direction and I'm trying to go this direction. That sucks. Now, if I go with CityFam and there's 50 of us or 75 of us and we're all like-minded, or at least most of us are, then guess what? We take over. We change the temperature of the place, where people are like, who are these guys? Like they're not getting hammered, and it actually attracts them because now they see a lifestyle that they can relate to. They're like, I could do that, versus trying to say, oh, hey, come to church and then look, just stay in 6.5 nights a week and live a boring life. Like who wants to do that? Right. So we go out and say, look, we have fun. We're intentionally not doing certain things because we're trying to go somewhere with our life. And we know that those things will hold us back. That's not because we, never want to, but we're just choosing not to do those things. It doesn't mean that we're boring or lame. Like, I don't think Jesus called us to live a boring or lame life, so we're challenging all that. We like to push the envelope and meet people where they are. And honestly, where people are that need community are a lot of times in places that the church would never go, so that's the way we have an event this Friday. It's It's a bowling event, just a bowling alley. But people, again, it's something to do. I look a lot of like the opioid epidemic or the loneliness epidemic that's sweeping the world right now. A lot of it is people need community. And if you look at the church years ago, we would go out and feed people, like people that were physically hungry. You go on a missions trip and you feed people. You earn your right to share the gospel with them. You feed them. Like, people in America aren't hungry, but they are hungry for something. They're hungry for community in a way they've never been before. And the church isn't meeting that need right now. They're not feeding people. So like, what they need to do is wake up and say, look, stop trying to get them into a building, which is not what Jesus told us to do. He said, go, first off. He didn't tell you to invite them to come. He said, go. I'm sending you out as sheep among wolves. That sounds dangerous. Most Christians want to get into their Christian bubble and they play it safe because they're like, oh, I might sin. Let me not go to those places. Well, listen, sheep among wolves sounds pretty dangerous to me. So what we do is, we'll go out to those places and we hold each other accountable because there's safety in numbers. But, we do a lot, we'll go ski trips. We're going to, but then I was going to say, well, this isn't actually an official CityFam event. So then we're going to go to Creation this summer. That's just me. I'm taking about 30 people to Creation Fest. So I'll do you should go with us. It'll be awesome.
I should. Oh my gosh. Literally, I did that in high school. I totally forgot all about Creation. Anyway, we'll talk about that on the offline because I could totally keep going. But see, what I love about that is that, Jesus went to
Matthew's house,
the sinners,
right?
The Pharisees were literally like, why does your teacher eat with the sinners?
Those people,
and that is what we need to be so strong in the Word of God, so rooted in the Word of God that literally as we go out together, because Jesus said go in twos, right? So that was that accountability that we all need. And I absolutely 100% agree, because that's a whole long story and we won't go there, but definitely I understand needing accountability. But like that picture of what I like literally want to be like, how can we get this in every single city across the nation and the world? Because that's the thing that I want. Like, I love that social media allows us to have some amount of connection, but it's not the level that coming together in a physical space that you bubble over with the light of Christ. Like, literally, I had somebody who it was the most beautiful gift. I was able to talk to her about Jesus, and she was like you have this peace and this joy, all of you do, and I want to know about this. How are they going to know about the peace and the joy if they don't see it bubbling up in a different way?
Right.
And I don't have a problem with alcohol, because Jesus consumed it and made it. But the Word of God said, don't get drunk. That's dissipation, right? So there's a difference. Like, I think that's the other problem that, Christians are like, so like, where's the line? Where's the this? Like, I have to be like, no, just go, do, together, show, be this broken, dysfunctional world, the light of Christ. Meet people where they are.
Right.
Oh my God. Love it.
So what I honestly see too is, and it's funny because so we'll have people come to CityFam events. I'm thinking about the Drew Hill concert, Drew Hill, Cisco, all that. I booked them at the Horse Show, and there's people that came, like church people, right? So you have, and this is what's crazy. I'll see a lot of people that are in church. They look real good on the outside. They get in their little, cookie cutter box, and they act like everybody else, and they're actually having sex behind closed doors, like because they have some secret sin, some dirt that they're doing. They'll come into CityFam, they'll go to a concert at the Horse Show, and they're like, but they'll stop having sex because they're hanging out with a group of healthy people. Like I often say, like, there's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing in the church. We're sheep in wolves' clothing. Like,
love it.
Like, honestly, I'll go out and have a good, but I'm like, I know I'm a fundamentalist. I believe what the Bible says is true, and I'm going to do my best to keep it. But I think there's a lot of extra BS that doesn't matter. Disputable matters, as the word says. So if I go, like most church people probably wouldn't walk into the Horseshoe Casino because of how it would look. you know,
For sure.
you know,
I'll go there.
right.
I'll
So,
go.
so like for us, it's like, it's this weird thing where, you know, and the funny thing is you'll see like religious people, sometimes I could feel like, you know, even at my home church, sometimes people look down their nose. It's almost like they look at you like, oh, like, you know, like we're lukewarm or something. And I'm thinking, well, who do you think's bringing everybody here? You know, like you're sitting in the front row speaking your Christianese, saying hallelujah, and you never bring anybody. You know, like you're in that Christian bubble. It's like, look, you got to take those blinders off. I just don't think there's any separation between like you said. I think the religious people didn't understand Jesus when he came along. You know, 2,000 years ago, Matthew's house. They were like, well, he wouldn't be eating with them if that. They didn't get it, and they kind of don't get it now, where they're, you know, and we're pushing against that.
Yeah, and that's what I love. I love that. And, you know, so how did Go, the book, come about? Because that is powerful and a way to do this.
Yeah. So it was just seeing the results. You know, everything was very organic in the beginning. It was just, you know, we were doing social and service events, and we just started seeing a lot of people come to the Lord through it. People that we were meeting that did not know the Lord, then they would, you know, end up in church. And the beauty of that too is what I often say is like, I actually worked Billy Graham's crusades years ago as an usher when he came to M&T Bank, not M&T, but it was Camden Yards. And I remember seeing all these people go forward, right? They all got saved and they went forward. I remember thinking like, what's going to happen to them tomorrow, right? Because here they make this decision and then they have no support system. With CityFam, by the time they make a decision, if they meet the Lord and they make a decision for Jesus, they've already got everything. They've already got a social calendar. They got friends that know the Lord. They got everything that's set up to be successful in that life. So I just think it's a more organic path. And then to answer your question with Go is, we just started seeing a lot of results, and we thought, well, you know, churches need to know this stuff. If you know the stats, there's a lot of statistics that are going to be in the book about the state of the church, and they're not good. Post-COVID, they're terrible. Like the church has just shrunk so badly. People find it less relevant. People, you know, the largest growing population is the ones that check none for their religious affiliation. They don't have any. So, but you see the effects of not having it, where we're just in a crazy state all the way around. Depression is through the roof. You know, drug use, all the the gender stuff, and you know, we don't need to get into that, but you can see the side effects of not having a connection to the Father, really. And so we decided we wanted to make it systematic. So Epic, my home church, is the first church that rolled it out systematically. They actually just did the Let's Go series. And it's a 4-part sermon series. We're going to take it to any church that wants it. It's a book for the congregation. It's a pastor's companion guide for them to read. It's a 4-part sermon series and a small group study. So a church can literally adopt it, and they're going to challenge their congregation to 1 year of doing life together. And what that means is get into a small group, do social and service events with your group, and then be mission minded. So my opinion is this: for now, stop inviting people to church because they're not coming. Like, start doing some social and service events with your group and invite them to that. Because like, if you were, you know, let's say I wasn't a believer, and you, Leah, you had a 80s roller skating party with your small group, and I was your neighbor, and you said, "Hey, Rob, do you want to go? We're going to go roller skating this Friday. It's an 80s theme, and we're going to raise money for the Ronald McDonald House, and we're going to go there the following weekend, and we're going to feed some little kids that are handicapped. Would you like to come?" I'd be like, "Yeah, that sounds actually pretty cool. I've always wanted to do something like that." You know, like I might come, versus you just saying, "Hey, do you want to come to church with me?" Like, no, like if I'm not a Christian, probably not. But I might go roller skating, and then if I serve with you guys, I might like the way I feel about myself. And now I've built a stronger bond with you because we're there volunteering together. And next thing you know, you guys are like, "Oh yeah, we go to Mosaic." I'll be like, "All right," you know, you got me at that point. So like, it's not that complicated. So we want to take it to churches, and I'm really excited about it. Shannon Etheridge, who wrote the book Every Woman's Battle, I actually had her on my podcast, and then I've been helping her with her social media. So she's going to help us shop this to some Christian publishers And God willing, we'll get like Zondervan or Thomas Nelson or somebody will pick it up, and we'll see what happens. But it's getting exciting. I don't know if it's been exciting. It's actually been a hard road to get here, because it's like frustration, pushing against, like seeing things that don't work and being frustrated with, the current state of things. But I know God had a plan in it all. So
He does. His timing is often not my timing. Gonna say that, we actually had that talk on my treadmill this morning. So it's true, especially when you're building a ministry business and you have actually several, and we don't even have time to get into your other book, which I love. Are you sure? Because I promised that I wouldn't.
Let's go another 15? Is that okay?
Hey, you call it. You call it. As long as you give me at least 2 minutes to pray over you before we're out.
I definitely want that.
Okay.
Let's do 15.
So tell about your other book, because this book, in my opinion, I think I have to be really, really transparent and honest. And I've talked about this to some of my community before. But it's been a really long time. But a sexual sin for me was something that was very, very difficult for me as a teenager and in college, because I had a very broken self-worth. I came from a very toxic environment. So I didn't love myself. I didn't love who I was, but I knew God loved me, but I didn't know how to apply it. I didn't know how to heal my self-worth. And so, like, when you resonate with me, when you're like, I was so lonely and I wanted that connection, and I wanted to, so tell us about the book that you created for that.
Yeah, so number one, I got to give all credit to Jesus, because this was all his idea. It wasn't my idea to be abstinent. You couldn't have paid me to be abstinent when I was younger, but he told me the right things at the right time, and he got me to the point where I was able to really understand sex, because I didn't understand it in my former life. Sex was like a massage. I thought, if it feels good, do it. Why would we wait? If a girl told me she was waiting, I thought she was being manipulative, to be honest. Like, she was just trying to get me into a relationship. So, what God told me, he had this person for me. So I went from being this big man whore to being abstinent, and I started to understand sex over time. And then I backslid, fell back into my old ways, and then I rededicated. And somewhere along the line, from living at one end and back and then back again, like, I really just understood it. So I was like, I'm going to write a book about sex. I'm going to write the most practical book that's ever been written on waiting to have sex, because I don't feel like the church does a good job of explaining it, because no one ever explained it to me. They just tell you not to do it for the most part.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is going to be practical, not spiritual, but practical. And while I was writing it, I made a video called 10 Reasons Not to Have Sex Before Marriage, posted on YouTube. It went viral. And I think it's still the #1 video in the world on the subject of sexual purity. It's got like 1.7 million views. And I mentioned CityFam in the video. So then we started getting people reach out from all around the world going, hey, what you said makes sense. How do we start one of these CityFam things so we're not lonely? So that's really what kind of forced us to be like, okay, we got to get our act together and figure out how to, scale this thing. But the book, again, just practical reasons for waiting based off of my mistakes and the things that I learned. There's a lot of studies in it, actually, a lot of statistics. Something people always ask me, like, so why should people wait? I always start off with the numbers, because, opinions vary, but people that marry as virgins have a 6% divorce rate. People that don't wait have a 50% divorce rate. I mean, that's startling right there. Just, and divorce, I've never been divorced. I hear it feels like death, it's not something you want to experience. And the crazier thing that I always pose to people is, okay, of the 50% that stay married, what percentage of them are happy? Because if I had to guess, I don't think it's that high. And I really think that is the consequence of not waiting, because I know in my own life, I would always have sex quickly, and usually I would lose interest after having sex. But sometimes we would continue sleeping together, and I would drift into a relationship with this girl, but it was never that great. I was always 1 foot in and 1 foot out. I was looking at other women, wondering if I could be happier with them, but but unable to break up too sometimes. So I had this soul tie. I didn't know what a soul tie was. First girlfriend, we were together for 4 years. I was not in love. I was stuck. I couldn't get out of it. We finally broke up. She started dating somebody else. It threw me into a depression when she started seeing somebody else. I reeled her back in. We spent another year together. We broke up. She started dating somebody else, threw me into a deeper depression. I tried to reel her back in again. Like it was a mess. And I'm like, this is what happens to people because no one's ever explained to them oxytocin. It's a real hormone. It's this biology. This isn't something I made up, and it forces you to stick to people. And if you have sex with the wrong person, you could get stuck with the wrong person potentially your whole life, and you could miss not only your purpose but your person. Like the person that God has for you to come along. And I believe, if you go all the way back to Adam and Eve, there's a divine order to this. Adam did not get Eve first. He got a job. So this is what men need to do. They need to understand that, look, first thing you need to do is harness that sexual energy. It's called Sex Transmutation, great book called Think and Grow Rich. I explained it in my book as well. You harness the sexual energy. You figure, it'll literally build up to the point where you'll figure out your purpose. And then you use that sexual energy to get started. You move the needle forward on that thing, write some books or whatever. What for me was write a book and start a nonprofit. I was harnessing my sexual energy. I still am. And then, because now you're thinking clearly and you don't have, you're seeing the red flags because you're not having sex. Now you're able to pick the right person, your soulmate, to come alongside of you and help you fulfill that purpose. And the word says that let no one be sexually immoral or godless like Esau, who traded his birthright for a bowl of stew. And I believe that birthright, it's permanent. Birthright is your whole life, but I believe that birthright is your person and your purpose. And what happens is when you're sexually immoral, you trade it for a bowl of stew, which is something that only satisfies you temporarily, like a piece of ass, excuse my language. But that's really what we do. We trade our purpose and our person for a piece of ass. And then we wonder why we're unhappy and unfulfilled. And we're using football and alcohol on the weekends to escape a reality that we've created for ourselves that we don't want to live in, because we know we're supposed to be in the promised land, yet we're still living in Egypt. You know what I mean? Like, so it's terrible, and people don't understand it. They need to understand, like, look, this is the way to do it. It's hard, which is why you need community, which is why CityFam, again, you got to be linked up with some other people to support you, because if not, you'll just get bored. And how many Friday and Saturday nights are you going to stay in before you get on Tinder or you go to the bar, and because you just want to be around some people, and next thing you know, you're drunk and you're sleeping with somebody. That's what happened to me. So like, there is an order to it. It's hard, but it can be done. And when you know the why behind it, and that's, again, why waiting works. When people know the why, I think it becomes easier to do. Like, who would go to the gym if they didn't know there was a payoff? Like, I have to understand, okay, if I get up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, I do 45 minutes of cardio, I can get a 6-pack. Okay, maybe I'll do it. But people don't even understand the why behind waiting to have sex nowadays. So it's like, no, listen, this is going to set you up for the life that you really want. Let me explain to you how it works. Then some of them will do it, but first they have to understand why. So that's what the book's about.
Oh my God, Rob, that speaks to me on so many levels. And, I think that one of the hardest things for waiting is when we don't have a soul tie to Jesus, when we don't have our self-worth wrapped up in Jesus. And when we're looking for that accolades and admiration and validation on the outside of us. And women, most especially, we are trained to be very sensitized to other people's, thoughts and emotions. Right. And so we gravitate to connection, I think, on a even higher level than men do. And I think that's one of the reasons why women get themselves soul tied and into marriages that are toxic for them. Right. And then I'm coaching them on why do they now have to live out the consequence of this? And it's because that soul tie was, they tied their self-worth to this other human being. Right. Yeah. And that for me was so eye-opening to see how, and I'm still to this day battling, looking at God for my validation and my self-worth instead of outside. It permeates all aspects of our life, even when whether or not we're married or not. Right. Yeah.
There's a great TED talk by a girl named Dawn Masler. She's a biologist. She endorsed my book, and it's called How Your Brain Falls in Love. And she talks about oxytocin and how men and women don't release it at the same time. Women release oxytocin when they orgasm. Men release oxytocin when we commit, which, if you think about it, God had it right. A woman gives her body on the marriage, on the wedding night. The man gives his last name, and the two cleave together, and they become one flesh. But what happens is when you get it out of order, the woman releases oxytocin, and now guess what? Now she's stuck on that guy, but the guy ain't stuck on her. That's why guys can hit it and quit it. And girls will be like chasing around the guy, waiting for a commitment that may or may not come. Sometimes wasting years of their life, making it harder for them to find somebody in the future, right? This is what happens. And sometimes the guys will either bounce or they'll commit out of obligation. That's what happened to me. It's like a girl, we'd be having sex for 4 months, and I was playing the non-committal game, and I knew I couldn't do it any longer. And so now I'm like, she deserves it. She deserves to be my girlfriend. That's not a good, now I'm in a situation I really don't want to be in. I'm doing it out of obligation because she's been giving me the sex and I haven't been giving her the commitment. So now I feel like a scumbag and I'll do it out of obligation. But guess what? My heart's not in it. I'm one foot in and 1 foot out. That's why I'm looking over my shoulder at other women. So it has to be done at the right time, which is on the wedding night. A woman gives her, I always go back to, and sometimes women will get mad at me when I say this, but this is the truth. If you boil it all the way down to the base, men want sex and women want security. It's true. It's all around us. I can give you numerous examples of how it's true. It's the reason, prostitution is the world's oldest profession. Men were always paying for it. It wasn't women paying for it. Women will never have to pay for sex. So when a woman is giving sex and she's not getting security, and real security is marriage, she's just giving. The man's getting, but he's not giving. Which is why the world looks at him as a stud and the woman as a hoe. Doesn't mean it's right, but you have to understand the dynamics so you don't get yourself into a situation where you transferred all your control over to that man and you don't even know what his intentions are. He could say, I love you, I want to be with you, you're the one. But unless he's ready to back it up with action, talk is cheap. I would literally sometimes think I was really I'm really into this girl. I'd have sex. The moment I ejaculated, all the feeling for her was gone. I was like, what's wrong with me? So I thought maybe I was, but the thing is, and this is what I say, when people say no sex before marriage, when I tell them no sex before marriage, a lot of times they think it sounds extreme. And I'll reframe it for them. And I'll say this, I'll say, what if I told you no sex before love? Most people go, I can relate to that. Great. How do you know if you're in love? I'll be like, well, I said, because what I believe is you'll marry the person. Is not only to prove it to yourself, but to prove it to them. Because look, I could say to you, Leah, if you were single, I could say, Leah, I love you. Let's have sex. You'd be like, sure, Rob, I love you too. Let's just run to the justice of the peace real quick. I'd be like, ooh, let me think about that a little longer. Right? That's the point. That is the point. Because now I'm going to find out if my heart's telling me the truth. The word says the heart's deceitful above all things. So now I'm going to check my heart and say, am I really in love? Because if I'm not in love, we might have sex and I'm either going to leave you broken or I'm going to drift into a relationship potentially with the wrong person. And now we're going to be in a loveless marriage. And the kids are, and this is what happens all the time. We try to get around it because we want the quick, I want sex too. I would love to have sex right now, to be honest. But I know the dynamics of it now. So I'm like, they ain't getting me again. So there's no, God's smart. He wired all this. And we have to play by the rules or we set ourselves up for a lot of pain.
Yeah. And see, that is the truth right there. It's what consequences do we want to live out? Right? You're choosing a certain consequence right now for that promised land that you have talked about. And I have talked about this, and, I know this is not a unique concept, but we are all in a desert period until we get into our promised land. And to get to the promised land, we have to work on us spiritually and unite with Abba Father and get that mindset, get that healthy habits, break down the can't, the victim mentality, the immediacy of things, right? I just was talking to a client today. I'm so proud of her. Like, she is doing the hard work behind the closed doors that eventually she'll get accolades on the other side. Right. And that's the thing. Like, we don't understand. Like, we never see the hard work and the sacrifice.
Yeah.
And there is no other way. Jesus says, take up my cross. And he's not talking about some burden, because he said my burden is light. But taking up his cross is his word and his will and his way for us to get into our promised land.
Love it. I often say nobody gets to their promised land without going through the wilderness. The only way out, the only way is through. Everybody has to walk through it. You can stay in Egypt because there's security. You got a good job. You got a paycheck. You got, maybe you're having some sex and you're like, I don't want to go out into the wilderness. So I won't be, the same thing that the Israelites did. They got out there. They were like, hold on, wait a sec. They had cucumbers back in Egypt. Let's go back, right? Some of them wanted to go back. People do that all the time. They get out into Christianity. They're like, hold on, wait a second. I don't have, X, Y, and Z. I'm not having sex anymore. I'm, not able to go get drunk with my friends every week. I have no social life. And trust me, I went through that. But listen, you can go back. Sure, go back to Egypt. Lots of people do. But you're never going to get to the promised land that way.
But see, what you've done is you've created exactly the way Moses said to his father-in-law. He said, we don't know the wilderness. Help us through. And that is the key, is that you have made a coaching program. They don't even know it's a coaching program. You are a coach. You are the guide through the wilderness to get them through. So it's not as hard. And I said to my client this morning, I was like, girl, you are not spending years in the wilderness like I was, making all these mistakes, because you have united with me. And I'm going to get you into your promised land faster. You're going to still have to do the hard freaking work. Some hard work she's got coming at her because the enemy's up all over her. And, that's just what it is when you're starting to expand your territory. And so that's like, I just feel like that you are doing exactly and have created exactly what that is that peace to help people, to handhold them and give them the accountability and the encouragement, and to say, I've been there, I do this, this is how it works.
Right.
Woo! Rob, I'm like all fired up. I'm like, how many people can we get over here? Stephanie says, is the book geared for adults or is it good for teenagers as well?
So Why Waiting Works is it's mostly adults. I've had people give it to teenagers, but I've also had people tell me I should write a version of it for youth, which there may be a girl that works, that runs actually the whole, operation. She may be writing the version for the youth, but I would say 16 or over. It's not graphic. I do say, we were having sex. There's a couple cuss words in it. I think there might be like shit or something in there.
I think that's okay.
People told me to take it out. They're like, you're never going to get on Christian bookstore shelves. I'm like, I don't care. This is the way I talk.
Well, this Christian mama that was one of my problems for decades, was cursing. It was definitely
Do you know the word scubula is in the Bible, which is the equivalent of dog shit? It literally is. Google it. It is a very vulgar term for animal excrement. And Paul says, I compare all things to scubula for the sake of knowing Christ. So this is why I tell people, I'm like, if that made it into the Bible, I'm pretty sure that cursing's not a sin. It's the intent. It's the intention of the word is the way I look at it. If I call you a dum-dum, or raka, you fool. Fool's not a cuss word. It says you're in danger of the fire of hell. If I stub my toe and go shit, it means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a word because I didn't have another word. So to me, it's like, I think God is, I'm like, I don't think someone came along and said, hey, if you put these 4 words in this particular order, it's wrong. It's got to be, it's just something more to it than that. But that's a disputable matter. And I try not to cuss around people that have a problem with it, but I don't have a problem too much with it myself. So and
God says he judges the heart. So what is the intention behind things, right? So he's really judging the intention behind all of our actions, right? Yeah. So Rob, this has been awesome. I've definitely, we've extended your time, but I'm so grateful because you have given us such a wealth of things that we can plug into. I really want my brother to learn. My brother has a heart for the city, the heart for his neighborhood. And so, yes, Rob, we're going to have to do some really awesome things in this city. And I'm hoping that more and more people will do this type of awesome work in the city. Nicole says, thank you so much, Leah and Rob. You're awesome. She says, I want the promised land. And Sally says, love this. So Rob, you have just absolutely given us such wonderful information to think on and to share with our communities and our pastors and churches so that we can meet people where they are. And so you guys, I will make sure and drop the links again in the comment section. But of course, it is in the upper post, and you guys can reach out to Rob. He is on IG, he's on LinkedIn, he's on Facebook, and so you can message him. You prefer IG, right? The Instagram.
Yeah, I
Messaging.
check my messages there very regularly. I will mention the link that you had, the whywaitingworks.net. They get the book for free. You just pay for shipping and handling. There's a small group curriculum that comes with it. So if anything of what I said, like as far as CityFam and Go resonates with you, how you would start is you would just start a small group. Read the book, get a few people together in your living room, wrestle through the concepts, and then you do a social and a service event as part of your curriculum, your 8-week curriculum. With the book. And then if you decide, hey, this is cool, like I really like what we're doing here, we're doing life together, and then you want to take the next step, then we put you into the CityFam pipeline. And our dream is to have CityFams around the world that become like these the arm of the church, almost, where the churches are able to partner with them to really fulfill the Great Commission. That's what we want to do, quietly, secretly, at least, very strategically.
We're here to be the hands and feet of Jesus, right?
You got to be, what he says, as wise as serpents, but as innocent as doves. So we want to be both.
Wow. Yep. I love it. All right, Rob, I'm going to pray over you because you are just on fire for the Lord. Lord Jesus, thank you so much for this time. Thank you for Rob. Thank you for the life that he has led, that you have used as a message for so many. And Lord, I just pray that you would abundantly bless him, bless his team, bless and enlarge his territory, bring peace within his borders, unite him with those that he needs to serve, and that will also serve and encourage him even more into his gifts and calling. And I pray, Lord, that you would surround him with hedges of protection, love and mercy all of his days. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Leah.
Well, it was my honor. All right, you guys, hit him up for any questions that you have. All the links are there. Grab all the books and let me know if you have any questions. We are here for you. And I will see you guys in the daily devotional tomorrow.